you're gonna learn about the legalities of a certain city, nothing makes more sense than to sit down with the local magistrate. And in Minneapolis, that means meeting with the mayor, Jacob Fry. Booze also helps.
Drinking is deep-rooted in Minneapolis, is it not?
Right, very much so. Although it's in the center of the country, we have been consistently either a first or a second stop of new Americans.
When you think of like multicultural or a melting pot, you don't necessarily think of Minneapolis, you don't necessarily think of the Twin Cities.
Yeah, you don't, but it's here. You originally had a very large Polish and Irish and German influence, and then what happened is you had all of the Norwegians suddenly came and moved to Minnesota. You had a whole lot of drinking from the Germans and the Poles and the Irish, and then not a lot of drinking from the Norwegians.
And so, then in 1920 came the legislation.
What's the Volstead Act?
The Volstead Act, which actually comes from a congressman here in Minnesota, Andrew Volstead, was sort of the prelude to Prohibition.
Prohibition was meant to end alcohol, and it actually made it even more profitable.
Oh, for sure.
And in Minneapolis's twin city of St. Paul, you'll come across the Wabasha Street Caves, hand-dug caverns where profits in alcohol were fully flowing during the dry era and even after.
Prohibition went away in 1933, and the owners decided, hey, people can drink legally now. Let's open a restaurant. So this place received St. Paul's first post-prohibition liquor license.
Can we start this part of the tour now? So why did this cave in particular become such a popular hangout for gangsters?
So the gangsters were the ones in town who had money. They could afford to go out.
So they hit it here, or they just partied here?
They partied here, they drank here.
Was it illegal though, or it
was totally illegal. Everyone's heard of Chicago.
In Chicago, New York, those are like
all those
when
kinds
you think
of people.
Gangsters, you don't think of St. Paul, Minnesota.
No, you don't. St. Paul became a safe haven for the bad guys. As long as you obey the rules, nobody bothers you.
What famous gangsters may have hung out in this cave here?
Well, Babyface Nelson.
I know what it feels like to be public enemy #1. I can relate, Babyface.
Edna Murray, the kissing bandit, was here.
The bullets are actually still in there?
We think Pretty Boy Floyd.
It's the most notorious one of them all, John Dillinger. So you're telling me I could be standing in the same spot that some of the most notorious gangsters in American history slept?
Well, not exactly on this floor, because in the 70s, this floor was put in by the disco.
Okay, this might be the same floor that John Travolta did windmills
maybe
on, is what
John
you're saying.
Travolta.
In a city where essentially prohibition was born, how does a city like that go to a city like this that is so welcoming and so progressive?
We had all these kind of bizarro laws. You couldn't buy liquor on Sundays. Restaurants in the city had to sell at least 60% food and 40% booze. I'm very proud to have gotten rid of all of that. Basically, you can drink anywhere, anything.
That was not just your secret to being elected, but I think that should be your
track
platform
for re-election, I think,
to
right?
be re-elected.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd vote for you.
Well, people around here seem to like it, right?
My man.
That's right.
My man.
And while it was the Scandinavians living in Minnesota who originally pushed for prohibition, today, two of them, John Kreidler and Dan Oski, are celebrating the signature Scandinavian spirit of Aquavit at their very own Tattersall Distillery.
Oh boy. Now this must be where all the magic takes place. What is Aquavit?
We like to describe Aquavit as like a Scandinavian gin. If you think of what vodka is to Russia and Poland, Aquavit is to the Scandinavian countries. First up is the grain.
The grain. That's a lot of corn.
It is.
What is different about Aquavit? What is unique about it?
It's just complex. It's beautiful. We have the botanicals. Caraway and fennel are the two really big ones.
Caraway and fennel.
And that's where you're ripping all the flavors off of the botanicals, creating that Aquavit.
Whew! That's good.
That's also about 150 proof.
Yeah, it is.
In Minneapolis here, we've got the largest Scandinavian population in the entire country, like by a long shot. One of the Scandinavian countries has this concept called hygge. It's this idea of kind of coming together and just enjoying family and friends. And like, that's what we do like every single day of the year.
So you guys open this up as a bar as well, right?
The cocktail room is open 5 days a week, and we like people to see how we're making it and to get a glimpse into the back.
So making booze isn't necessarily like making a sausage. This is something that you actually want to show people.
Exactly.
So this year, 2019, as we're celebrating the failed centennial of sobriety in these United States, one thing is for sure. There's a steady flow of hard alcohol and spirit here in Minnesota's Twin Cities.
It really is like the people that make the community, and from the mayor to like the local entrepreneur businessmen, that I think that's what makes this city amazing, and that's what makes this city this city.
And we're very proud of it too.
Olé! The fruits of your labor.
Fruits of your labor. There you go.
Let's go.